Welcome to Curran Hall. This is the office of the Quapaw Quarter Association and the Little Rock Visitor Information Center. My name is Rhea Roberts, and I'm the Executive Director of the QQA. Our mission is to promote the preservation of Little Rock's architectural heritage through advocacy, marketing, and education. And so this is a brand new education series that we're hosting. It will be held every third Monday of the month. We'll start at 5 o'clock here. Come and have a glass of wine, and then we'll start at 5:30, and they'll last for 1 hour. We have schedules available in the hallway and at quapaw.com. I just want to remind you all that we are a membership organization, and membership dues go to support these kinds of programs, and so we want to continue that. So if you're not a member, I'd like to invite you to join. We have cards outside in the hallway, and if you join online at quapaw.com, you get a free 1-year membership to the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and they have a lot of great resources and a really nice publication that they send out bi-monthly. I would like to thank Copper Grill. They're our partner in this series, and we'll be handing out some discount cards in a second. If you go over there after this program, you can get 1 free entree with every entree that you buy. And so we want to thank them for that and send you all over there to keep talking about preservation. I would also like to thank the Quapaw Quarter Association Education Committee. I think several of them are here. Lucretia Diaz, Jennifer Carmen, Amanda Driver, and Carol Zeller are also on our committee. So thank you to you guys for making this possible. And so I'm sure you all know by now, our program today is a panel discussion by people who have rehabilitated or restored houses before. And so you can pick their brains about what they wish they knew beforehand and what you want to know before you start. So just like to introduce our panelists. First here on my left are Vanessa and Tim McEwen. They're native Arkansans. Tim is from Morrilton, and Vanessa is from Snowball in the Ozark Mountains. After returning home from several years in Brooklyn, New York, they settled in Little Rock, where Vanessa took a job as Executive Director of the Historic Preservation Alliance of Arkansas. Tim and Vanessa's love for historic architecture, neighborhoods with a strong sense of place, and their desire for a hands-on project attracted them to the boarded-up, overgrown house at the corner of Summit and 15th Streets in the Central High School Historic District. The Colonial Revival House, built circa 1900, is their first rehab, and Tim's upcoming return to school at the Bowen School of Law has allowed him to spend the summer full-time as a house husband, attempting to complete all major work on the house before mid-August. Their ongoing project has been challenging at times, but their commitment to their historic home to be will see them through to the finish. And to their left is Donna Thomas. She has converted her talent for restoring properties into a full-time job with her company, Donna Thomas Properties. She specializes in the certified historic rehabilitation of contributing structures with a current emphasis on residential properties in the Central High and Wright Avenue neighborhoods. She typically completes 2 projects per year and often tackles properties that others would view as lost causes. She does much of the work herself, building new skills with each job. And we also have on the end Carl Miller Jr., who probably needs no introduction with most people here. He has served in many capacities on preservation-related boards and commissions throughout Arkansas, including as the Secretary of State's representative to the Capital Zoning District Commission, a member of the MacArthur Museum of Arkansas Military History Commission, and as a board member of Little Rock's Quapaw Quarter Association. Carl is an ex officio board member of the Historic Preservation Alliance of Arkansas and an advisor emeritus to the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Carl continues to serve as a board member of Pioneer Washington Restoration Foundation and as a board member and treasurer of the Little Rock Visitor Foundation. He is also a member of the Arkansas Historic Preservation Program State Review Board and an advisory board member of the Mosaic Templars Cultural Center. He received the Historic Preservation Alliance of Arkansas's Parker Westbrook Award for Lifetime Achievement in 1985. In the 70s, he restored the 1892 Dibble House in the Governor's Mansion Historic District of Little Rock as his residence. He continues to care for the historic home and is currently restoring 2 houses in Little Rock's Quapaw Quarter. So first, I'd like to go down the row and have each of them tell a little bit about their projects, and so you can direct your questions to specific projects if you like.
Okay. Thanks, Rhea, for having us here. It's
you.
Nice to see a full crowd here, and I have to say a little bit intimidating being on a panel with Carl talking about rehabilitation. He's done so much more, and hopefully, oh, sorry, you can't hear me. Okay, I'll lean a little bit closer. Tim and I bought our house at the corner of 15th and Summit Street, which is in the Central High neighborhood, Central High Historic District, in May of 2009. And we basically just, it was not on the market when we found it. We were walking around one day with Paul Dodds, who had kind of encouraged us to look at, we wanted to buy a house, a historic house, and wanted a hands-on project, kind of wanted to be able to, get in and learn as we went. And so we saw this very sad but beautiful boarded up house on the corner, kind of raised up off of the street. It's a colonial revival style house, but it has a lot of different features in it. It's mainly colonial revival. It has some kind of more Queen Anne massing and some craftsman elements too. So it's kind of all rolled up into one. But it's a big 20, I guess not big relatively, but for us it seems really big, having lived in very small apartments in New York for preceding years. 2,200 square feet, 2 stories. It's has a big wraparound porch and hardwood floors, a lot of nice wood features, wood trim that had been pretty well taken care of. But we actually probably discovered, I'll save some of it, but we discovered a lot of things as we were kind of getting into it, that there were a lot of things that made it look like it was in better condition than it was, and I imagine that's probably a common thing. But we were really lucky to find hardwood floors in pretty good shape, and a lot of the wood trim. All of our historic wood windows are there and in really good shape. There were storm windows. It seems like somebody took really loving care of the house for a long time, and then it probably had, kind of been in disrepair in the shorter term. So that's kind of where we started.
And I'll just add a little. My name is Tim McEwen, Vanessa's husband. We bought this house a little over 2 years ago, and really didn't know much about what we were doing. We both had varying experiences with historic preservation, and I had worked some construction jobs in the summer in high school and college, so I knew how to swing a hammer. But getting deeper into the layers of the house, we've discovered a lot along the way and learned a lot, and are continuing to learn as we continue to work on the house. Like she said, I don't know if you said it was built in 1900. Vanessa's found out through her research, and digging down and finding features from 1900 that are still in as good of shape as they were 110, 111 years ago has been great. We've found a lot of features that were added in the 60s and 70s that haven't lasted nearly as long. So things that we had planned on maybe just painting over this part or putting a new floor over this part, we've had to go a lot deeper and get into the structure of the house. So it's taken longer than we expected, but we are learning a lot. And the next time we do a project like this, I'm sure it'll go much more smoothly and much more quickly. But it has been a fun process, and welcome your questions later about it.
My name is Donna Thomas. I kind of fell into what I do because I needed a job. And I had talked with a realtor friend of mine about maybe buying a house and flipping it, because everybody watches HGTV. Thought, why not? Why can't I do that? And one of my good friends, Jennifer Carmen, who is on the
education committee.
Right. She talked me into buying a old house on Summit Street. It was built in 1913, something like that. And I thought, well, how hard can it be? Well, I kind of ran into the same problems as you all use. 4 subfloors stacked on top of each other to find that the bottom one's rotten. Just things like that you weren't quite expecting when you purchased the house. Unlike most people, though, when they buy a house, I was willing to take it down to the studs and build it back up to what they are today, which is back to historically appropriate houses. I'm really not sure what else I should be talking about right now because you haven't asked any questions, but I'm not unwilling to take on any project. There's always, if there's a will, there's a way. And so I welcome y'all's questions as well. I'll go on to you.
Well, I had kind of the same experience that the rest of you all have had, and still experiencing it. And I can tell you one thing, and after you've done one, they don't get any easier because you end up with the same different problems, but the same kind of thing as you go along. And I do think, and what I think is interesting is that you all are a lot younger than I am, and really, when you get into these projects, you don't realize a lot of times just how much you are getting into. And I think that's good in a way, otherwise you might not even do it. Because they do end up costing a lot more than you think they're going to, no matter what you pay for the property. There's a lot of you here tonight that have done properties and know what I mean. Other thing about it, I'm a single person, so I make all the decisions. And that makes it simpler sometimes because when you have a couple or others involved, it can really put a strain on your relationship, and that's something you need to think about when you get into one of these projects because it'll really wear on you a little bit. But when I bought my house in 1968, it was a rundown rooming house, 10 rooms with stoves and refrigerators and grease and 3 bathrooms. They were commonly used, and just a big mess, the outside and the inside. But the foundation and the structure of the bones of the house were good. So I really didn't know either what I was getting into at the time. I just knew that I liked this period of architecture. It's an 1892 Queen Anne style house, and I had a good friend, though, that worked for at that time, the Little Rock Housing Authority, John Robinson, and he was an architect and was really interested in preservation. And so that's how, together, we kind of learned about it, because back then, there was not a lot going on in preservation. They were just beginning to have the states have the state historic preservation programs. And the National Trust was in business, but in a minimal way. And now you can get so much help from so many agencies and things that it's really wonderful. And of course, there are tax credits available too for different types of work. But at the time that I bought my house, there were no tax credits or anything really available. They did say that you could get some grants maybe from the housing authority, but the requirements were such that I just didn't fool with them. And the big thing nowadays, of course, is financing, because, for a while financing was easy, but now you have to put down, I don't think you can get any without 20% down on the property. And then, of course, you've got to rehab it, or restore it, whatever you're going to do. And that's the main thing, I think, is plan, because you've got to keep those costs under control as much as you can, because you're still going to have extra costs no matter what happens. And then you want to be sensitive to what you're doing, so you need to do a lot of research. And I later on you can see I brought some photographs. When I first bought it, I started looking in the phone book and trying to find people that may have lived there and getting photographs together and that kind of thing, so that I could kind of research about the house and the period and so on. So that's basically what I was doing.
Okay, thank you all. If you guys want to start, if you want to just raise your hand and ask questions, and I'll repeat the question into the mic.
When we first started, the design overlay district was passed in, I think, November of 2010. So when we first started, it wasn't in place. But the majority of what we're doing is inside the house. And so I don't think that we've had any real. We haven't really done anything that's under the design overlay district or that applies. When we first moved there, we cut down a tree that was like some sort of evergreen tree that was about it was huge, and it just had one little tuft of evergreen on the top, but it might have been 14 inches around, but I think that's the only thing that I can think of that might have come under the design overlay district that that we didn't have to deal with because the design overlay district wasn't in place. But really, we are doing most of the work inside the house, and the design overlay district really applies more to new construction because it deals with more of the pitch of the roof and the setback and the massing of buildings. And since we're not making any major changes to any of those things, we haven't had to deal with it much.
We had the air conditioner and heater outside. If they were put in today as new units in a new house, would not qualify. They'd have to be moved to the back of the house as part of the Central High DOD. But since there was an old one there already, they got grandfathered in, and we're going to put a fence to block those. But other than that, I think we haven't done anything and aren't planning to do anything externally that would fall under the DOD's guidelines. Those of you who don't know, the Design Overlay District covers, is it the National Register Historic District around Central High School?
Well,
Almost.
it's a little smaller, yeah.
Kind of some additional zoning rules that were passed with the help of the neighborhood association by the city to try to preserve the look and feel of the neighborhood. Not as restrictive, or not as, what's the word? It's not the same as a local ordinance historic district, like what you have in MacArthur Park neighborhood.
It's a zoning tool rather than a preservation tool, basically. But it does kind of help, hopefully, new construction fit in the neighborhood. There are quite a few empty lots in Central High neighborhood, so I think that was kind of the main concern.
And it's on the Little Rock Planning Department's website now, if you want to take a look, just for an example of what we're talking about. I checked the other day. It's on the site now.
And our heating and air is on the inside of the lot. It's not. We're on a corner lot. It's not next to it's not on the corner. Just to be clear.
Donna, have you dealt with any issues with that?
I haven't.
Central High? Okay.
I'm further down on Summit Street,
Okay.
so therefore it doesn't pertain to me yet. But I kind of hope it will in the future for new construction or other people coming in to fix up historic houses, and I don't want a whole bunch of changes to them.
Okay.
Now, I'm in the capital zoning district at 14th and Spring, and on Broadway, I've got two houses. One that's complete now, it's owned by